Welcome to the All Around Joe podcast, where we optimize your human performance from my personal experience as an athlete, coach, and all-around self-improvement junkie. On this edition of the All Around Joe podcast, I'm going to be talking with you from a walk here in Steamboat Springs. If you're watching this on YouTube, which I highly recommend, you get to see the environment snowy, beautiful snowing actually, and I'm just going for this little walk to get away from the rest of the world, since you can't go inside to record a lot of things right now, and Emily's working in the van. So this podcast is going to be what I have learned from living in a van for 3 years, or actually the way that I titled that is what living in a van for 3 years has taught me. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about this, since I don't usually talk too much about the van stuff on the All Around Joe fitness podcast, but I'm going to touch on some fitness points here as well. So if you guys are interested in the van life and why I've lived in a van for 3 years, not down by a river unless we get lucky, then go ahead and continue listening or viewing this podcast, and we'd love to have you check out our van stuff over at thevantasticlife.com, or on Instagram, Facebook, all that fun stuff, wherever you like to hang out. So the first thing is that there's so much to see out there. All right. So, and I'm sure that you're probably like, well, yeah, so much to see. But the real truth of the matter is that you learn that there is even another layer or 2 or 3 or 5 that you can see that you should be out doing when you actually are out here all of the time. You can't even come close to scratching the surface if you're just working a normal job and doing vacations. So if you feel like you're the type of person that wants to get out and do more, see more, then this is the life for you. Absolutely. I mean, there are places that we would have never ever found if we hadn't been living in a van and just been kind of like tooling around and meeting people and spending time at coffee shops. You just never would have figured out where that cool little camp spot was, or like the mountain bike trail, or like the place to go swimming in the river. You just wouldn't find those things. So it is amazing how much you can really go and see and do, and it just opens the world up. And in fact, now we're feeling like there's so much more to see that we haven't seen already, that it just seems like infinite. It's like, man, we've been on the road for 3 years and we're not even coming close to what there is to go out and see and do. It's outrageous. So if I have to set this camera down at all, it's because I don't have gloves on and it is 20 degrees. Actually, might be a little bit colder out here, so I want to keep my digits. The second thing, we found that the active, I'm going to put this in quotes, the active old people in RVs have it figured out. Okay, now I'm not talking about the snowbirds that are cruising down to Florida and hanging out in their RVs and not doing anything but drinking and trying to call that retirement good life, and pretty much just hanging out and dying. Oh, dropped my phone in the snow. There you have it, phone in the snow. Back to it. The pitfalls of trying to record while walking at the same time. So we're talking about some of the people, the coolest people, the people that we like to hang out the most, are actually the retirees who are still out doing stuff. They've kind of got it figured out, and they are the type of people that when they hear about what we're doing, and I have a lot of respect for the people that have lived longer than me and done more stuff and run more races and done all these things that I haven't done. So I feel like that those people have it figured out. And if we can all try and figure that out before the norm or how we usually do things, then that is an accomplishment to be proud of. I'm just trying to give you some more like firepower to go and figure these things out for yourself. Maybe it's not for you, maybe it is, but that is something that we've learned, is that those people have it definitely figured out. Next up, working from the road is actually very easy and fun. So a lot of people are like, well, I've got this job and whatnot, and I can't do it from the road. Well, the truth is that most of you probably can. And it took us 3 years before we even left to figure out how to do it and to like work with companies and figure it out. And right now, these companies are actually in a situation where you have to work from home, right? So all you need is an internet connection, which is easy to get, and you can do your work from anywhere. So if you're sitting like I am right now with my home right next to Steamboat Springs Ski Resort, and you're doing your work and it's a great day to go skiing, or you wake up in the morning and there's a bunch of snow, it's a great day to go skiing, you can get up, do a few runs, and then come back and get your full work day in because you live right next to the freaking mountain. It just makes everything that's cool more accessible because you can go to these places that you wouldn't have been able to go if you were sitting in your home office, which you probably have cool things next to your home, but you only have that one cool thing. So when we're done here, we can go to a different place and make that our home and do cool things there. So the opportunities are just endless. You meet amazing people on the road. So a lot of times the people that are doing these cool things are also very cool people. So if you like to surround yourself with people that are just cool, doing awesome things, having a fun life, happy, try this out. Or that is something that we have learned is just fantastic, is these people that you meet on the road that you connect with are just like, they turn into lifelong friends because they're such cool people and they recognize that what you're doing is cool, and then you just stay in touch with them. It's unbelievable. Here's another one. So a lot of times people will think, I can't, do what I'm trying to accomplish from the road. So I have goals or whatnot that are different athletically in this particular case. So unless you're a CrossFit Games athlete or training for an Olympic sport, you can pull off being just as fit, if not more fit, without having a gym. And if we haven't proved that to you with the Get Better project, then you guys have had your eyes closed, because we only have 2 dumbbells, a kettlebell, we have a jump rope, we have some bands, all that fits into a very small space and doesn't impede our van life at all, and are incredibly fit right now. Not only that, we're training for a marathon that is actually going to be 5 or 6 hours long. So not that we're running really slow, that it's really hard, the Leadville Trail Marathon. So you can do these particular things. You could even be, I think you could be a high level runner or endurance athlete out in a van, because you can drive to where you want to train and you can do and have all the same foods and things that you would normally have from the road. You might have a little bit more trouble right now finding like your massage therapist or something like that because of COVID, but that could probably be overcome. Teach your spouse or whatnot how to do that, and that would be good, or that would work for you. So you could get all of your training in. You don't have an excuse. Like if we're out here training in 20 degrees, nobody has an excuse. Here's a big one. The small space is not an issue. How many times have we told people who are living in a van, they're like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. The space is so small. We have 2 people living in the smallest Sprinter van. Yes, we have the smallest Sprinter van, and it is not an issue at all. It has never been an issue. It is a non-issue. The thing is that people are like, oh, I want my own space. And you could get a bigger vehicle and have your own space. I have a friend of mine who has actually done this van life. Well, technically it's trailer life, where they're pulling a 5th wheel trailer behind their truck, and it's a toy hauler, and they turn the toy hauling space into an office. So they have a very own dedicated office. They actually have, I think, 5 TVs. So you can run pretty much a normal life. And their setup is 100% bigger than my apartment was in New York City. You can have this setup and get most of the amenities that you want. So the downside of having a bigger rig like that is that you don't have as many places to park it. It's a lot harder to drive, harder to get yourself going, get hooked up and all that stuff. And you're not going to be able to take it into places that we're going to be able to take our nimble 4-wheel drive van and camp, with really cool settings and whatnot. So you do have those limitations, but if you wanted to, I would still say it's 100% worth it to go get a trailer and then have that be your lifestyle, rather than being stuck at home 100% of the time. Especially if you're stuck in this idea that like, I need to accomplish stuff at work for somebody else, it's not really all that fulfilling for me. If it's super fulfilling and you have this life mission, then go ahead and crush that, get after it. But I would say that the majority of people that I know don't have that life mission. So you need to figure out what that is and like what you're trying to accomplish. I've decided that if I reach the end of my life, and I've said, I've skied as many powder days as I can, I've ridden amazing mountain bike trails, I've inspired people to be super fit, got outside of my comfort zone in trying to accomplish those particular things, that's what I'm going to be happy about. I would not be happy if I was sitting in an office job working for somebody else trying to accomplish some other goals just so that I could get a paycheck. That just didn't be fulfilling for me. I would be like disappointed with myself when I got there. So unless you are gonna get to the end of your life and feel like, man, I've really accomplished the things that I want to, I've left a good mark on the world, and I've done all of these cool things that make me proud, then maybe you should think about doing something else. And I feel like this has enabled us, this van life has enabled me to accomplish these things in such a way that are, fulfilling those goals and those things that will make you look back and be happy about them. And you have to really also put yourself in this place where you're appreciating where you are right now rather than trying to think of like the cool thing that's going to happen next or the cool thing you're going to buy. Because like, look at this. I mean, I'm out here doing a podcast in this winter wonderland all by myself. It's amazing. Like, life things are awesome right now. And there's no reason why you shouldn't be setting your life and striving for these things as well. Along the lines of the small space not being an issue, the other thing that we hear a lot of times is that people are worried about not being able to have as many things. Like, we have one little closet where I can have I think I have 5 sweatshirt style or size things, and I have 3 pairs of pants. I have probably 15 t-shirts, so quite a few t-shirts because people keep sending them to me. I need to throw away a few t-shirts actually. They're worried about not being able to have all of their clothes and their things, and if you've ever purged your stuff, you know that this is like something that you're lying to yourself about. So like, every single person that I've ever talked to, everyone that I've talked to that's done this has purged, got rid of things, feels better about it. And I'm talking like big purges. So I would have never realized this until I had to move home from New York City, and I could only put all the stuff that I owned in a small little car. And then I just never accumulated things again because it was so nice to not have all of the stuff and to feel like you were free if you wanted to go somewhere and just leave or whatever. It feels fantastic. So if you've never done that, I would highly recommend, even if you're not going to live in a van, try getting rid of a bunch of stuff. Like, go through your closet and just give away or sell all of the stuff that you don't wear regularly. If you don't wear it on a regular basis in that season, get rid of it, period. You will not miss it. I went through and sold a whole bunch of stuff that, for me, which doesn't mean a lot, like all my snowboard and winter stuff that I was holding on to as like secondary things, and made, a few $100s, and there were things I was never ever going to use again. So we have this really great opportunity to get rid of things, feel free from those things, and make money too, which is kind of cool. So the things is actually getting rid of them is one of the biggest bonuses that I would say about living in a small space. I've learned that if you're unhappy with where you're at, you can just drive away. And this is something that was kind of strange at the start because we didn't realize that we could do that. So like, if the weather was really bad or there was like a cold front coming in and we weren't ready for the cold, we could just drive to warmer weather. You get stuck even in a van at first. We didn't realize how easy it was to do that. And it's so easy. You just put it in drive, figure out where you're gonna go, and drive away from the weather. I believe we were in St. Louis or something like that the first year of our trip, and it was gonna be like minus 10 degrees. And we're like, why are we here? Why we need to get ready for this minus 10? Let's just drive south. And it was that easy. So being flexible and being able to be flexible like that, or if you're like, man, it's snowing right here, but I need some sun, let's drive down to Arizona. We could do that, no problem. And it's so easy and cool to be able to just take your life on a whim and do those particular things. Home feeling, or the solidifying like being home or being in a place, is something that is just like, for me at least, it's a false thought pattern that never really is true. Like, the idea of home, maybe that's because I've traveled a lot, lived in a lot of different places, but I don't have that sense. Like, home is where you're happy, I guess. So figure out what that is for you. And that's, for me, I don't have any sense of like where I want to be and go and feel like I'm home. It's like, go to what is going to make you feel good in that moment and continue with that and think about it and make sure that it's fulfilling what you want. I'm trying to not fall off the trail here as I'm recording the last little bits of this podcast. So the last thing I have here for you is that I've talked about a lot of things. The logistics, though, of actually living in a van, like where we get internet, how we get internet, how we set up our food, how we set up our van, how we can sleep, how we get water, how we can figure out where to camp, all that stuff. We have blog posts on that over at thefantasticlife.com. So if you head over there, you can check out, what our van looks like. You can see all of the amenities that we have. You can get all of the tips that we can think of to share with you over at thefantasticlife.com, or you can shoot me an email, joe@allaroundjoe.com, and I'd be happy to help you out with any of this stuff. But I thought that it would be fun to Number one, make a podcast as I'm out here walking around the snow. And number two, to kind of talk about the 3 years, just under 3 years of van life and why someone would do something that silly. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, like I said, let me know. Happy to answer them. We'll get back to the fitnessy stuff after this podcast probably. And yeah, guys, hope you have a great day. The All Around Joe podcast, where we optimize your human performance from my personal experience as an athlete, coach, and all around self-improvement junkie. We'll see you on the next podcast.